It's
just a weather. Bronchial infection.
Hello, Marie, how are you?
We are ready to go.
Great, thank you, Brendan. Welcome to the May 11th, 2026 meeting of the Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee. My name is Steve Perez and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight we are joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Berg. This meeting is called to order at 6:32 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. We need a volunteer to take minutes for tonight. If you are able to take minutes, please let me know. And I want to add that we will be doing something slightly different tonight for minutes. And that is, we are going to take, the office is going to take the transcript that is generated by Zoom, feed it into an AI that tells us the summary and the action items. So all you have to do is review it to make sure it's accurate about what we talked about. And then it should be a less heavy lift, assuming it all goes as planned, but we're gonna pilot it and see how it works.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, actually.
Yeah, there's a little device they're selling now. It's like $200 where it does everything. It gives you a to-do
Really?
list and everything.
I will be happy to review the.
He did mine early.
That
Yeah,
sounds
he's gonna
great.
done it.
That sounds actually really fun.
Yeah.
And that's gonna,
It's amazing though. Sometimes vital things are.
It's the transcript.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's it, that's right.
Well, we don't, that's why we're getting a human to review it.
Yes.
The human review is the essential.
Yeah.
Hey.
component.
Oh, yeah.
Happy to.
So thank you, Kate. We will now take attendance.
That might be better, right? Okay, then I can see the screen. Okay.
We will now take attendance by roll call. Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name. Your name is called, please say present. I'll announce if there is quorum. Tanya Arias.
present.
Jim Collins.
Yep.
Bee Disman.
Present.
Rob Parfin.
Present.
Kate Kennedy.
Yeah.
Ava Marie Lassiter.
Present.
Reshma Patel.
Present.
Steve Perez.
Present.
And Miriam Rowe is not with us tonight, but we do have a quorum.
Great. The agenda for tonight's meeting is distributed ahead of time by the board offices and is reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. We will now adopt the minutes. The minutes from the March 9th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the March 9th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CV6 website. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand. I will identify you. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question, please raise your hand through Zoom. I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, please have only one person speak at a time. So, moving on to tonight's agenda, the first topic is discussion of cost and availability of insurance for residential properties. So many of you may have seen that we did change the agenda. So originally we had thought about talking about the pied-à-terre tax. That is sort of a done deal, and it's the things are it's still very vague too, right? I mean, the state budget still hasn't been released. We never expected it to be this late,
Yeah.
nor has the city budget been this late in a long time. So
Well, it came through on the news, though. That
Well,
local- yeah, they're
a
like-
handshake agreement has been reached, and yeah, but we'll.
Yeah, well, the city budget's
Yeah.
June 30th, so that's,
But usually the second iteration
yeah, it would have been out,
would
yeah.
have been out by
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
and it was the final one comes
Yeah,
out later,
yeah.
but yeah. So we just thought, let's move on to
Yeah.
a different topic. And so the way this came up is that it's sort of in the theme of we talked about affordability a few months ago when it came to utilities, because that's, energy prices and all of that. And this is another thing that has come up both locally, but also at the state level and even nationally, that this is a conversation that's happening. So, and the topic of insurance really applies to owners and renters alike. You know, it applies to everyone. So don't think of it as, oh, I rent, I don't pay insurance. Well, you are paying it, the building is paying it. So it's one of the components of, you know, household budget that is going up, and it makes a difference, particularly for people living in affordable housing. So I just wanted to share briefly, some, like, my own personal take on the insurance, because this is kind of how it's affecting me, but sharing it not just because it's anecdotal, but I know it's emblematic, kind of what's happening writ large across the city in many buildings. So I sit on the board of my condo building. We every year get our insurance renewals. This year, our insurer leading up to the insurance renewal was essentially doing their best to make sure that we would opt not to sign on again to their policy. What they did was so those of you who live in buildings and have dealt with this know, whenever you have work being done in your apartment or get a delivery or anything, you need what's called a certificate of insurance.
COI, yeah.
Yeah, that needs to go to the property manager. Usually it's annoying, but it's usually like you just send it in and it's fine. The insurer now wanted to review all the policies of every contractor
Jesus.
coming into the building for any work whatsoever.
Oh, my God.
And our experience with that was not only would they would take weeks or months to review it. If you can imagine what that would imagine.
Yeah, you're putting
what
in
that
your
would-
AC and, you know.
Yeah, maybe 3 months later, you'll get, you know, you can get your furniture delivered or your house painted or whatever it is that you were gonna have done. 90% of the contractors and vendors, they were rejecting, saying they didn't have the appropriate waivers and paperwork. So this became an untenable situation for us. And so then we went to the market and said, what are our options? So our options were 3 choices. One was a 50% increase in a premium. One was a 72% increase in our premium. And one was an 88% increase in our premium. All which gave us less coverage, significantly less coverage than what we were getting before. But what choice did we have? So we had to sign up for that. So we're approving the budget now for the year. This was the single largest line item increase in the entire budget. And it now represents 3% of the whole increase that we had to do was just due to this insurance, right? Which nominally usually takes up a pretty small portion of like an entire building's operating cost,
Right.
but it's becoming like a bigger and bigger piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And what we heard from our property management company, which manages hundreds of buildings across the city, is that this was not unique to us. And in fact, it was much worse in a lot of other buildings.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, before we dive into the discussion, I wanted to open it up and see if anybody else wanted to kind of share their experience with this type of, and we're focusing on residential insurance here.
Well, you know.
Go ahead, Tanya.
I had the joy of watching all 8 hours and 47 minutes of the hearing.
Wow.
And read through the entire, but what I will tell you is that this is not new subject for me being president of my board. We deal with this all the time. And also it's important for everybody to remember that the insurance industry is a for-profit industry. They're not going to be there to help you. They're going there to make money. And the fact of the matter is that everything requires insurance. A building requires insurance. Every resident in a building requires insurance. You either require homeowners insurance or renters insurance. A bank is going to require that everybody has insurance in order to lend to you. They won't give you a mortgage unless you have insurance. So you can't put in an air conditioner in a window, like you say, unless you have a COI. My management company now has a system called BCS. BCS reviews all the insurance policies for everybody that comes in, but their requirements have almost tripled or you know, it's ridiculous. So a small contractor can't get into the building because the requirements are 5 million liability. Part of the problem is that the umbrella has become untenable because between the scaffold law and the fact that they tell you that the reinsurance that you're not paying for what happened in Florida, bull crap.
Nonsense.
That is utter nonsense. We are paying, ever since that building collapsed in 2021, you can see it, insurance just shot up.
Mhm.
So we're paying for and the fact of the matter is that New York City, with all of the DOB regulations that we have that are so strict on our buildings, to get through a FISP cycle is like
Mhm.
it's a marathon. We should have the cheapest rates in the nation because our DOB is so strict about maintaining buildings. And the worst part is that even though there's the redlining is now illegal, they're still doing it. Not openly, but they do it. You know, so affordable housing is getting completely destroyed. Section 8 vouchers are getting destroyed. I actually think that this is a serious national structural problem. It is not just a New York City problem.
Yeah,
But
so that's
we
what I
need-
was gonna say. This is not, I mean, we're paying for the fires in hurricanes in Florida and California. And frankly, they shouldn't be living in places, you know, that
Exactly.
this happens, but they are. They could all just be living on the East Coast like all of us,
Yeah.
but they're not. And they don't have strict regulations.
That's part of the
Yeah.
problem. Part of the problem is that there is no, you know, my stepdaughter is one of the ones that lost her house in that fire in California. But this is a very fire prone area. So you have to start setting some regulations at that level in California or in wherever it is, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi. If you're building your houses with 2x4s and sheetrock, of course a hurricane's gonna take you out, or, you know, so there's no. We're paying for the mistake, which is typical. We're paying for the mistakes of others.
Mhm.
And, you know, the amount of regulations that we have in housing in New York City should actually make us cheaper. And it turns out that they're making a ton of money in New York.
Yeah.
Except you also have a trial bar that's very, very aggressive. The
But
attorney,
they settle most of these cases.
Well,
They don't
yeah.
even 70%
I
of
understand
the
that,
are
but
settled.
it's usually the settlement tends to be fairly generous. I mean, you have the compensatory damages and then you have the punitive damages. And, you know, if you're a building and you're facing that kind of risk, yeah, you're gonna settle. You mentioned the scaffold law, that's another issue, but we had a catastrophe in my building. I'm under an NDA, so I can't discuss it. But, that catastrophe boosted our insurance incredibly high. The other thing you mentioned was the garage that collapsed in Florida. You know, the city imposed a new garage inspection
Yes.
thing. Do you have a garage in your building?
Thankfully not.
Yeah, that was
But we're
another,
marked, so that makes it even worse.
that was another huge cost,
Yeah.
that probably was peripheral. We had to do it. It was very costly to have an engineer come in, but it wasn't anything that actually probably needed to be done. It was just a requirement of the DOB. So, yeah, they tend to be extremely expensive. And like I say, the trial bar is very rough.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you tried to get home insurance in New York City like 20 years ago, it was higher than the national average because of what he's saying, because of the
The trial
trial
bar.
loss, because there's
Yeah.
people always getting sued.
Yeah, always
Yeah.
getting.
All those signs in the subways you see,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
paying for.
You know, and that's it. That's what they were mentioning at the hearing. The hearing, if you didn't,
What hearing
Sit
is
in
this,
a-
by the way?
that
City
he,
council?
Oh, the
the,
council hearing, okay.
No.
no, it was a
Committee?
Senate
Senate.
hearing,
Senate
Senate,
committee.
okay, yeah.
And it's really, it's I mean, it took 9 hours of my life, but I think it's,
State Senate or
9 hours?
US Senate?
it was 8 hours and 47 minutes.
Yeah, it's
Senator
US,
Coofis, Senator Kavanaugh, and Senator.
so it's the state senate.
Yeah, it's state
State
senate.
Senate, yeah.
It was great. It actually was fantastic. But what I took from this also is that they claim that there's discounts. There's no discounts. You know, what they do is they force you to, like I said, they force you to redo your sidewalk or to put something, you know, on your windows or whatever in order for you to get the insurance. not to
Mhm.
get a discount.
Mhm.
So they're not giving you discounts. The other thing is that, you know, there's, what I found interesting is that, DFS does not have data on the actual claims that happen. They don't have it. You have to watch, they asked, well, do you have the data? Did you watch the whole thing too?
No, but that was the first part, so.
Yeah, they don't have the data. So a lot of this is also anecdotal, you know, because I think my favorite of all the guys that testified was the attorney. Did you see him? Oh, Andrew Finkelstein, he was just fantastic. And you know, what he said is that they had $88 billion in profits in 2023 and 130 billion in the first quarter. And they're penalizing all of us for climate change. Meanwhile, they have billions and trillions of dollars invested in the oil industry.
So does anybody else have anything they want to share with me? I'm gonna move on to the hearing, which we're already getting into.
Yeah.
Can I check to see if anyone's still there? Because I just see CB6.
Wants to do a private
I must have kicked it by accident.
Yeah, they're
sorry.
talking about doing a private insurance.
Oh, insurance.
Public.
Well, what is called
I
captive.
mean, yeah.
The insurance.
Captive. It's called captive.
Yeah.
There was a guy that spoke about the captive
Well,
insurance.
the city, he wants the city to run an insurance,
That Florida had its own
Okay.
insurance?
Okay, just a moment.
like us running groceries.
Okay, I think we have to fix B. Can you hear us?
Nope.
Nope.
Now I hear you. I lost you for about 5 minutes.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
We sound like that guy from Verizon. Can you hear me now? Or no, was it
Are
T-Mobile?
we back online?
But we are back.
Okay. So, sorry, I think Rashma, you were.
No, I think I
Okay,
was
you were
done
finished.
saying, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it was not even really important, it was just confirming what everyone else is saying.
So going now into the hearing, the way I want to structure this is like, let's talk a little bit about the takeaways from the hearing, which Tanya, you've already started to get us into that. And then we can look at some of the bills that are out there.
Yeah,
And see, and then what I'd like to then see is this something we would want to do a resolution on?
Yeah.
We can kind of work on,
okay.
be thinking of that as we kind of go through this. So the purpose of that hearing, it was the New York State Senate that held this hearing on November 18th, 2025. And the hearing was the same subject as our meeting, cost and availability of insurance for residential
Oh, now I
property.
remember this hearing, it was long
And-
ago, but that's why I forgot.
And the purpose was to analyze property, casualty, and liability insurance markets for residential properties in New York and consider legislative and policy changes to promote access and affordability for all property owners and long-term stability of the insurance market. That was the stated purpose of the meeting. And I just wanted to share some of the highlights from Senator James Skoufis,
Oh, I love him.
because I felt his points were sort of on point to sort of introduce what the topic is about and how it's affecting homeowners
Yeah.
and renters
Yeah.
alike in the state. But that is, that according to a report by one of the trade associations, despite heavy catastrophic losses in 2025, including the costliest wildfires on record, the US property and casualty industry recorded its best mid-year
Mhm.
underwriting gains in nearly 20 years.
Yep.
This equation is not working for everyday New Yorkers, and several common themes have emerged about what is causing this, or not causing, but what are some of the things that property owners are experiencing. One, property owners, regardless of spotless claims history or any fault of their own, are seeing their premiums dramatically escalate in recent years. Two, regulators are often lacking the data they need to robustly evaluate and monitor the impact of insurance trends on consumers. That's exactly what Tanya was just pointing out. Three, the modifications that homeowners and property owners are encouraged to make in the face of severe climate threats are not resulting in lower premiums or any meaningful savings.
Yep, second.
Four, many are locked out of the voluntary insurance market, again, through no fault of their own, and forced to pay even more with insurers of last resort. Five, countless New Yorkers are foregoing property insurance altogether. And six, the loss experience carriers endure in other states may well be influencing the rate setting here in New York, which is another point
Yeah.
that we've already made. And then the other piece of some of the materials that I sent, I know, sorry, it was a lot of reading that I sent out, but that's why I'm summarizing for everybody so that some of the main takeaways. The other thing that struck me was on the affordable housing side, just how, I mean, when you think about how affordable housing operators operate on the thinnest of margins. So can you imagine when they're getting a 100% or 150% increase on insurance? Like what does that do to their
And you can't
business
pass, you
model?
can't,
So-
pass it- and when you pass it on to
No,
the
exactly,
renter.
can't. So the volatility in the insurance market is particularly difficult for affordable housing providers to navigate. So Real Estate Board of New York reported that New York City's affordable housing providers have experienced insurance cost increases of 110%
Mhm.
across 428 different housing developments. And this was what I thought the most alarming, was the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development reported, and I quote, "Rising insurance premiums have become one of the most destabilizing forces facing the nonprofit community development corporations. Unlike for-profit landlords, the community development corporations cannot offset expenses through rent increases or market rate units, market units. Their tenants are low-income families, seniors, people with disabilities whose rents are capped by regulation, leaving no flexibility to absorb cost spikes. This forces community development corporations to deplete their reserves, defer maintenance, or take on debt simply to remain solvent. Without targeted intervention, rising insurance costs threaten to push many of these long-standing community anchors towards insolvency, undermining decades of public and community investment in affordable housing." So especially when the city is facing its worst affordable housing crisis in decades, what do you think this is going to do
Yeah.
to that formula? And now I just want to return to just quickly the main factors driving the costs, according to like all of this testimony. One, climate risk and increasing possibility of severe events happening, right? Macroeconomic factors like inflation, supply chain, repair and building costs. We all know those costs are going up, so replacing them costs more.
Mhm.
More frequent litigation with larger jury rewards and fraud. Those are happening, and reinsurance, which is something we also talked about. So the solutions that were proposed in many of the different pieces of testimony were, of course, building more climate resilient infrastructure. But again, when I look at all the investment the city is doing in the ESCR
Yeah.
on the east, I mean, has that resulted in lower?
Yeah.
No, I mean, or maybe they would be even higher, who knows? Are they taking that into account is my question. The loss mitigation efforts, like, fire alarms that can bring down costs, or hurricane-proof windows, or, those other technologies supposedly that give you the discounts or that mitigate risk, they should be driving down costs, not making them go up. Third, regulatory modernization and increasing the capacity. So fully fund, as Tanya was saying, the Department of Financial Services, DFS. They are the state entity that is in charge of operating the insurance market and really being like the go-to state agency, right? When it comes to the kinds of rates and all the oversight that happens at the insurance industry, and allowing DFS to hire consultants that would help them in their filing processes, litigation reform and combating fraud, that would definitely lower costs. And then on the affordability side and all of this redlining, which as Tanya said, it still happens, or they call it blue lining or whatever it is.
They just, they just take the insurance away.
But so establish a community reinvestment framework. As many of you know, that banks are required to do this, right? It was called the Community Reinvestment Act,
Yeah.
Right.
saying the banks have to provide services in areas that are underserved. Well, no such law exists for the insurance industry. So there's proposals from a lot of these nonprofit affordable housing providers to say like enough is enough. We need something like that for the insurance industry as well. So that was sort of really the big picture takeaways, but I want to hear if anybody else had comments, questions, or other things they thought were important from the hearings or the testimony.
From what you
Go,
just
Jake.
read, there's another provision in terms of having access to, I'll call it the general data. If the individual data you can get when your building is getting these high insurance rates, there should be a method where there is, if you want to call it general data, that goes to the tragedies, I'll say, natural tragedies that occurred in other parts of the country, and the percentage of what they had to pay out versus the increases that we're responsible for, let's say in New York State. There's nothing in there that even addresses that in terms of being able to measure what they paid out, I would say, so that people can go back and live in that area versus what we're being charged in terms of increased rates. It doesn't appear that anything like that is covered there, and to me, that's the main problem.
Well, it's true, and they mentioned that it's essentially a black box.
It
You
is a
know,
black
When you
box.
get an insurance, they're not required to tell you how they're setting the rates. You know, you have no idea. They have actuaries and
Yeah.
formulas that are kind of deciding how they're allocating risk and measuring costs and doing projections, and that's how they're kind of coming up with these formulas. But again, to the point of Tanya brought up earlier, DFS doesn't have granular detail.
It doesn't.
They have sort of some of the macro detail. But, and then to the other point about are we cross subsidizing what's happening in other states? Some of the testimony from the insurers stated that, well, under state law, we're required to price the New York state policies only based on data and what's happening in New York.
Yeah.
However, the loophole there is the reinsurance.
It's the
Right.
reinsurance.
So it's where do insurers don't take on all the risks on their own,
Yeah.
right? They shop on an open marketplace to get more coverage and distribute that risk even more.
Just like
Because they don't wanna have something in Florida, you tank
Yeah.
their entire, system. So
Sounds like the mortgage
Right, so
bank security.
in a roundabout way, they're kind of offloading some of those costs, and it's really, it's kind of unfair, and we're trying to I think the legislation is trying to figure out what do we do about it.
Yeah, like I mean, the question is, how do you regulate? And also, I mean, frankly, doing it at a state level is also not really the solution.
It's not.
Because
No,
it
it's
isn't,
not.
yeah.
No, it's not.
It's not at the
Yeah.
state level. As I said, this is
Yeah.
a structural issue because you have an industry with so much power and so unregulated and uncontrolled that it can, like you say, it's a big black box. The fact it was absolutely shocking to me how, Senator Skoufis said to DFS, well, where's your data? Do you get any data on actual claims, on actual fraud? There is no data on the fraud. And this attorney, which I encourage everyone to watch, Mr. Finkelstein, he was really great because this is what he does for a living. He's an attorney dealing with, insurance. And he says that this is sort of like when his child was saying there's a monster in the closet, there's a monster in the closet. And he would say, well, what does it look like? And he couldn't say what the monster looked like, as opposed to data. They're telling you, I was shocked with one of these insurance people that said that New York is slated to have one of the most catastrophic natural occurrences in the history of catastrophes. And we're all like, really? I mean, it's something that they think that's going to happen. So they're pricing it into it. And the fact of the matter is that I agree with Reshma 100%. This is not a New York problem. We can control some of it, But this is a problem at the federal level when you have an industry that has absolutely no control. And they just run amok, and just last but certainly not least, it's not just, at the revenue report and also with CNYC, full disclosure, I was just elected to the board of CNYC, the Council of New York City Co-ops and Condos. Co-ops and condos are actual affordable housing. You realize that co-ops are not for profit. They're not for profit, and we have to maneuver all these expenses so as to not increase the maintenance for our shareholders. And what happens is that for rental buildings, when all of this goes up, the rent goes up, and then taxes in New York City are based on the level of rentals. So it's just, it's when you throw a snowball down the mountain. This is serious.
They raise the property tax on
Yeah, it raises the-
condos,
yeah.
on the co-ops,
Yeah,
based on the rentals.
based on.
I mean, but to your thing about they think that big catastrophe is gonna happen in New York, I mean, that's the whole point of insurance, right? The model is what risks do you think are gonna happen?
Yeah, but.
Yeah, but I had a question, and I don't know if someone here really understands, because like something like, remember, insurance company like Prudential was a mutual insurance company, right? So wasn't like anybody who owns policies is a shareholder in that company, right? A
Yeah.
lot of insurance companies are set up that way, so I mean, the structure was fundamentally different than banks, and hence, was supposed to be for the benefit of all policy holders. So is it the reinsurance that's changing that? Does anyone know this answer? Yeah. Yeah.
I recollected a couple of news articles I'd seen
Yeah,
months ago, last year, I guess it was, where insurance companies have pulled out of New York State entirely.
yeah.
And so you have a reduced level of competition.
Mhm.
I'm curious what their reasons may have been for leaving, if that came up in this hearing at all.
They say slip and fall is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a lawsuit.
It's litigation.
Yeah.
It's like we're like one of the most litigious
Litigious
yeah.
places on earth.
places and
Yeah.
easy. to-
Yeah, I mean, Jim said that from the beginning.
Huh?
Yeah, you've been saying that for a long time about that.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah,
there must be other reasons though. There must be other.
I mean, we
Yeah.
probably, or I mean, for instance, in the healthcare in the marketplace, if you buy your healthcare off the marketplace, a lot of insurance companies in the healthcare space didn't want to do business in New York because New York regulates more than other places, right? So that could be the same for homeowners insurance. And I don't know
Yeah.
anything about car insurance because I don't drive, but
Yeah,
that's been an issue, right? The car insurance stuff.
but when you compare New York to other states, we're not. So, there are states that are much worse in terms of trying to operate
Yeah.
from a regulatory, and actually
Yeah.
they were saying we have quite a robust market.
Yeah.
We
That
have
was-
a
that was
robust
one of the
market,
things, it's
yeah.
like there are over 1,000
1,000 carriers.
carriers
Now,
in the
don't
For
state.
home insurance?
No, but
Yeah.
for buildings, you have to have a AAA insurer,
Yeah.
and that's only 3 companies.
Oh.
Yeah, that was our case as well.
There's only 3 companies that you can go to,
Yeah.
and I'll
Yeah, I
tell
mean,
you.
in my building, again, we did a bid,
It's,
we only had a few bids,
It's
so that makes sense.
GNY, it's Travelers and CMJ.
Yeah, so
It's down to
Travelers.
2 now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
There's a few more, because I know we got the bids when I was.
Oh, you got
looking
the
at it,
bids? Who?
And I
Yeah,
don't remember the names off the top of my head, but it's CMJ's not who we're going with, I remember the other 2 names are
Travelers and GNY.
not, no.
No.
I wonder if anybody's looking at this stuff for antitrust.
That's the way it should be. That's really what it should be.
Say more about that. What do you mean by antitrust?
Oh, just price,
It's
price
a
fixing.
monopoly.
Yeah, because if there's more competition, we wouldn't have, yeah.
Yeah,
Because the problem is that I think that they all sort of protect each other. Let me put it this way.
Mhm.
It's the insurance company, that's why I said at the beginning, it's a for profit.
yeah,
It's for profit. And if she has an insurance company, not have an insurance company, we're competition, but in a way, we want to keep the rates. Because if she keeps undercutting my rate and I keep undercutting hers, we're all gonna lose money.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a sort of agreement.
Yeah, so it's a collusion thing, and so
It's
the
a collusion.
antitrust,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember when.
When we had
Frank-
antitrust
well,
laws.
No, when Frank Borman called up, he was on the head of Eastern Airlines, I think
Yeah.
it was. And he said, you raise your rate, I'll raise my rate,
Yeah.
I'll be done, and somebody captured it on audio tape and the guys.
I don't think we're gonna get any help
yeah, I
from
kind-
this.
I think that may be part of it. I think it's more likely that it's just like the way that their algorithms and their pricing models are working. They're making some assumptions, right? About
Yeah, that's
like
making
basically it
sense.
happened after sort of Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
Then they were like, okay, let's plan for another catastrophic that's gonna wipe out. I mean, we're a coastal
So
city.
we need an insurance company
They're
that
gonna
doesn't
say-
believe in climate change.
Right, like, let's wipe out, let's say the whole world.
Climate change, but yeah.
As they filled those and didn't just deem it an act of God, like, that a lot of property and casualty insurers have done.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
there were a bunch of people in California talking about that,
Yeah.
that their property and casualty didn't pay off on the fires there.
oh, because they deemed it an act of God?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I.
B has her hand raised, so like, B, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I've been listening to the conversation. I do agree that it's a national issue. But I think we have to be very realistic in this environment. We have to deal with what New York State and New York City could do. Because you're not gonna see anything nationally for regulations for a very long time. As a matter of fact, if there are national regulations, expect them to be, sent down and eliminated. So our focus as a group should be of all the bills that exist currently, which of them are those that we might want to support or raise and do some more research, and not really focus on the fact that we're paying for what California or Florida or some of these other areas have done.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a great segue, B,
Yeah.
and I totally agree, and I think we should look at, there's a lot of homework we can do on our own
Yeah.
as a state to fix some of these cost drivers. So I think, and some of it, so let's turn to the legislation. I did a scan of the testimony and also some other things that I read. So let's start with, there's Assembly Bill 9016. And that would require the Department of Financial Services and the Department of Housing and Community Renewal to publish annual reports on insurance premiums, non-renewals, denials, and claims for multifamily and nonprofit housing providers across the state. So really, this is attacking that lack of
Right.
data and transparency. So I feel like that would do something, would help
That would help.
the overall context in terms of what we're looking,
Yeah.
what the DFS needs, right, to be able to help make good decisions about the regulations that we're putting in place. Does anyone have any?
yeah, I mean, I would say again,
Thoughts on that
because again, with the insurance, you're projecting risk forward, so I don't know how much past data helps, right? Like essentially, we wanna be able to see what factors they're taking into when they're doing their pricing too.
But I mean, they don't even have this,
Yeah.
right? So
don't even have-
that would be a starting point to know, like, what are the premium, what are the non-renewals,
Yeah,
denials, like how many, what,
Yeah.
get some of the data behind that.
it's a Senate bill.
It's an Assembly Bill 9016.
Yeah, it's right here. It's by sponsor Taurus is sponsoring.
Yeah,
it.
Torres has like a package of bills. This
Yeah,
is kind of
I
one of them.
think, yeah,
Because I'm gonna go through all of them, but like each one is kind of, there's not like one comprehensive bill. I think the way they
did.
they
it piece-
strategize it is they
little
kind of
pieces,
like
yeah.
do pieces and try
Yeah.
to get as many passed as they can.
and the 9016 would also include data on the actual claims. We would get
Do you
data
have
on the
that one
claims,
to pull up, Brendan? I know.
because that's really
Brendan's ready.
important. We need data.
Which one is it?
9016.
9016.
Okay, just a moment, I'll pull it up for those at. This one, correct?
Yeah. Is it B or is it? Steve, do you remember? Have a B next to it? I think it was.
No, I think it's right, is this one?
No.
This is data, Department of Financial Services. Authorized
Yeah, it does say.
premium discounts.
Sponsored by Torres.
Okay, yeah. The
But he has-
description's so
But he has a
different.
couple of them.
He has a couple. He has a 9016, a
Yeah.
9015,
So this is what your link goes to and.
Okay. Then that's the one.
and that's the one.
Thank you
Okay.
for checking. So yeah, it requires them to submit data to the DFS and authorize premium discounts, yeah, on mitigation actions. But yeah, it covers all of these other things that I also
Perfect.
read because
Yeah.
that
Okay.
came from the testimony.
Okay.
So I think that tackles part of it.
Yeah, so I mean, this,
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually voted aye.
You said,
I voted aye on it.
yes. Then we have A9015.
Can you scroll down a little bit on
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Let's see where it is. Oh, so it's
It's
not,
it's
it's
nowhere.
It's
Yeah,
nowhere.
yeah.
It's nowhere.
All of these are
No.
in committee,
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah. A9015 would establish a statewide housing insurance task force co-led by DFS and HCR. The task force would convene stakeholders and insurers to assess market conditions, collect and publish data, issue policy recommendations, and approve availability, pricing, and fairness. So this is essentially like a stakeholder working group, which is really bringing together the DFS, insurers, like housing, affordable housing providers, like get everyone in the same room, talking to each other and saying, what are their challenges? You know, I feel like also that would be something that would be beneficial just in terms of getting the dialogue and having different stakeholders understand what the different issues are, right? Does anyone have any questions about that one?
Not having read it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no,
people
yeah.
can read them later also with the details,
Yeah.
but like.
I mean, my only
We're just
issue
gonna
is,
base
I
it.
feel like every time we set up task force, like, are we just
Yeah.
setting up more bureaucracy versus
Yes.
getting things done?
Right,
Yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah.
it's, yeah, and it depends, for those of us who don't work in the industry, like, it's hard for us to know, you know, was this help? Is it just another layer of
Yeah.
duplicative work that has already been done? It's a little bit.
I think that's,
yeah.
this one is just being polite. I think this is the polite bill. That's the way I feel about it.
True. I mean, it's basically saying like, we need to regulate you, but let's
Yeah.
have a
Let's talk
discussion.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody like a Consumer Reports or somebody like that does an analysis of this stuff. Though how would they get access to the data?
Yeah, because if they don't have the data. then-
that's why we need the first bill.
We need the first bill.
That there's actually
We
some
need the first
information
bill.
that's publicly available. Then we have S7939. Which. And this is this would target the affordable housing issue, and so it would create a $50 million excess liability insurance relief fund to help bridge the growing gap between affordable housing owners' net operating income and their rising insurance costs. And the fund would provide targeted grants to operators of affordable housing. And I also wanted to note that the New York City Council member Riley has introduced a resolution, the City Council level intro 364,
Yeah.
also supporting this particular bill. So there's some, essentially it's saying like, I mean, again, we talked about how do these nonprofit, affordable housing providers, I mean, what do they can't raise any revenue from their tenants. Especially if, you know, if the real estate board is gonna say there's a rent freeze this year,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? So it's essentially creating a small amount of a fund that would then be available for them to kind of subsidize some of their. And it's targeted, right? They have to present how much of their increase of, you know, why are they not able to pass that on? And it sort of sets the bill sets like threshold amounts, so.
But I feel like this is giving the insurance companies an out. You know, they're supposed to be working with affordable housing. They're supposed to supply reasonable insurance to affordable housing. I mean, I get that this is
At
sort
what
of,
price though? Right, there's no
Why?
price controls.
there's no price controls.
Yeah, so they're not,
Why would affordable housing be different from anybody else in their view?
No, they have to do insurance, reasonable insurance for everyone. But what they're doing is they're pulling away from affordable housing, or they're making it really
Unaffordable.
expensive, unaffordable. Even though there's redlining laws, they still do it. They still, you know, just don't renew. Was it?
To
I
me,
think it
this
was
is- yeah.
Carlina Rivera who mentioned about a building that was completely no insurance. They took all insurance away. It was 40,000.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is addressing in the short term what these nonprofit corporation development community are facing. Because in the long term, you're right, there's gonna need to be some systemic
Yeah,
fixes. But in the short term, what are they supposed to do now? You know, this year, they've got budgets to meet this year. So that's where I think something like this would come in. You know, how much it will help, I don't know, but it's something, right?
it's 50
B,
million,
go
right?
ahead.
Yeah, so, you know, as we're looking at these many bills and I've looked at them, I really have a problem doing a number of bills. I think you have to take what's the most significant for us to deal with. and really push that forward. And I think Tanya had mentioned it before, we've all did. We don't know what we're dealing with because we don't have data. Neither do they have data. So even though it's going to take a while to get data and to deal with it, I don't see setting up any nonprofits or other things until you know what you're dealing with, because quite honestly, we're dealing with stereotypes and exaggerations and unknown data.
Yeah,
Well, I would say that there is certain unknown data, but the known data of the community development corporations is what they're paying for insurance and the fact that they're becoming insolvent. So I just don't think how we consider that. So
So my
Yeah.
only comment
need
is,
more data before we
is it
bail you out because you're gonna go insolvent and then you're gonna have a real homelessness crisis on the streets, let me tell you. Right? We're gonna wait until the nonprofit corporations shut down.
I don't see the structure on doing it, and setting up a fund like this is gonna be bureaucratic. So, we could look at the rest, but I think we have to be realistic in what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that particular one before we look at the next one?
yeah,
I mean, I agree with B to start with the data, like if we are
Yeah.
gonna decide what we're gonna do, not that this isn't an issue, but to kind of figure out how big an issue it is, what we can do to push the insurance companies to kind of give better rates. I think is a
True,
good
but
starting point.
like
Yeah.
I said, that's the long term.
Yeah, I know, I
Yeah.
see what you're saying, a short-term fix.
This
I'm
is-
also thinking about it from, like, we have healthcare insurance issues, in car insurance, like, there's a lot of places where we need to put money in right now, building more affordable housing. Like, there's only, in this state budget, what's gonna get priority? Like, what will they decide to prioritize and put money from the budget into? Is another thing that we need to gauge.
I think that New York City insurance is, with the exception of the Stip and Falls, which we actually don't have data on. We don't have data on how much fraud happens. And according to the attorney, most of the fraud actually occurs on the insurance side, not people falling. But that's where, if you have to watch the whole thing.
What do you mean by the insurance?
Where they bring it, where they try to talk you out of they don't pay
Oh,
you.
they pay
And
$1,000.
or they pay $1,000 or whatever, so that's more of a problem than the slip and fall thing. But what I think about this is that, we're putting it's a safety net, but it's a bit of a Band-Aid. I think that if anything, what we should do, as B says, is here at New York, it's profitable for insurance companies, otherwise we wouldn't have 1,000 insurance companies in New York.
Mhm.
And the fact of the matter is that we're a lot more profitable than California or Mississippi or Alabama. And so, the city government or the state government could say, dude, if you're gonna work here, you have to accommodate affordable housing at better rates. You can't continue to pressure affordable housing just because, and what they do, and they actually, it's under the radar redlining. It's really what it is, because if you have a lot of voucher or they like shy away from insuring you, so it is a
Sure.
bit of redlining.
Yeah.
And I think the city could be stronger in saying, if you don't do this, you won't be able to do business in the city.
So, I mean, I guess, because there's affordable housing, right, which is different than low-income housing, NYCHA.
Right.
And does NYCHA also get insurance, or is that self-insured? Because you guys are saying Section 8 housing and stuff, and that's NYCHA.
Yeah,
And I think they have to have self-insurance.
I think.
Like,
that's
affordable housing is like Stuyvesant Town, Peter Cooper has some affordable, yeah, like that.
Still, some
Yes,
of it.
yeah,
Little
yeah.
bits.
I mean, in this district, right, I don't know where else we have, yeah.
I mean, I live in,
Six houses.
Mitchell-Lama.
Yeah,
Affordable
Mitchell,
housing.
yeah. Yeah, I guess in Waterside, yeah.
Yeah.
And Phipps, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm less excited about that one than I am about the other two.
Yeah, I can see that. Let's move on to the next one. this is probably one of the most consequential ones for the industry, and that is S9281.
I love that.
So we're what's known as a file and use state.
Mm-hmm.
So file and use in New York insurance refers to the regulatory process that allows insurance companies to implement new insurance rates immediately after filing them with DFS without waiting for prior approval. And so and then the regulator subsequently reviews and potentially rejects those filings if it's unjustifiable or not compliant. But as a matter of procedure, it's kind of a fast track way of them for be able to, what they say is react to changing market conditions quickly and be able to set new rates. But are those rates ever going down? No, they're always going up. Right? So,
Yeah.
and so this bill would require approval for residential rates. They would no longer be just file and use. So it would eliminate the file and use and rate setting for commercial and personal residential property insurance. And it would also require insurers to explain premium increases for consumers and to refile with DFS when their demonstrated profitability exceeds certain benchmarks.
I think it's a great bill.
So that, in a nutshell, is some of what and it would do.
I really like that.
But we need DFS to have the actuaries to understand the reasoning and modeling.
Sure. It goes hand in hand with the other one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of data, one of the things I'd be curious about is a single family home, and obviously that doesn't apply to CB6, but
Yeah.
or CD6, but I'm curious, single family homes, rents, or insurance premiums versus apartment complexes, condos and co-ops of similar scale. So for example, if you've got a 2-bedroom home versus a 2-bedroom co-op or 2-bedroom condo, what are the premiums on the single family home versus the condo? Following?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
but
What
I don't
the
have the answer
differential
to
is,
that.
No,
right?
Yeah, but I imagine.
Well, without any of that data.
I mean,
Well, I think part of the reason is that, you know, Manhattan's buildings, which is what we're dealing with in this community district, tend to be very closely monitored, like you said, by the Department of Buildings, what have you. Whereas some guy out in Staten Island has a fire trap and these sidewalks are broken, et cetera, et cetera. What's his rate versus our rate? And are we perhaps subsidizing the negligence of single family homeowners?
There are
You follow me?
single family
I
homes
see
in
what your
our
point.
district. There's not that many.
Not
Yeah.
that many.
They're not that many, but there are single family homes in our district, so.
There are single family homes.
In our districts, we could probably find out.
Yeah, there's like
They're
5.
they're not many of them.
Yeah.
And
We
I
have heard the
imagine
study,
those
but they
5
exist.
people have enough money to not be worrying
Yeah.
about insurance at all.
Yeah, it's like the $5 million penthouse.
Affordability is not a problem for this brownstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, brownstone owners, yeah. But I think the key here is data. The key here is that a lot of this would just. When not even DFS can come up with solid justification for even claims. I mean, we're basically navigating this blind, and therefore that gives the insurance companies all the power. Because we don't have any power, we don't have the data, we can't, like you say, maybe the homeowner that doesn't have proper insulation or has, a miss.
He's got a barbecue thing on his
Whatever.
back wooden porch.
I mean, I don't know about other buildings, but my building's highly regulated.
Yeah. So-
You just can't do stuff.
Yeah, I think, that's. good.
So we should be, like filet mignon for these insurance companies, seriously.
Yeah.
And just so you know, when that building in Florida collapsed and DOB issues an unsafe designation to a building, banks refuse to lend because they don't understand the difference between a FISC program and what happened in Florida. So it's just an accumulative effect of this, we pay all around for what happens around the country and we really don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, everybody.
With this last bill, where it's saying supplying explanations for certain premium increases, well, to me, in terms of the explanation is the data, so I don't believe that there's a black box. So if on a state level, something should be added as to how they're validating this increase. And it has to be the data, that something in there has to state that that's what is required in the explanation.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe it says in the detailed text, I don't know, I'll have to go into the bill and depth things, see what they, in the legislation,
Well,
this is just a summary, so we'll.
Well,
We can
then
go
to
in
me,
there and see,
it should
yeah.
be in the summary.
should be in
It's sort of
Yeah.
like burying something
Yeah,
that maybe will not be acknowledged. So
Yeah.
that's my feeling.
Just one other thing, I think we need to be careful too, in terms of the legislation. Because there is always the risk that the insurance companies will say, oh, well, you're regulating me too closely, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of companies will close down locations, for example, if they see their workers become organized to start unions. So
Well,
I
it
think
sounds a threat,
it's something-
like that there are 1,000 insurance companies in New York State. To me,
Yeah.
that's just putting up a threat, and so they don't have to
Yeah,
show
but
data.
how
or
many
to
of them can?
substantiate the explanation.
Yeah, but it's only
I mean, and a lot of those are probably brokers as opposed to actual insurers. A lot of them are laying off their risk to the majors. The majors just say, I don't want any part of it.
Can I ask a quick question? This is not related to any of the bills, I don't think, but to your point earlier about how part of the underlying issue is the reinsurance,
Mhm.
and that part of the market doesn't seem to be affected by the New York State law, which requires the insurance market to be capped just within our state. Like, is there a way to expand the legislation so that it would be more inclusive?
Yeah.
I don't know legally how you would do, I don't know if there's a legal way to do that, but yeah.
That's a good point.
But it's a good question.
It's a good
Like,
question.
it seems
yeah.
like they're purposefully evading, but I haven't ever read the law, so I don't know what the law is.
But think about it like a
No,
multi-state
they
corporation.
I mean, they
like
created
Yeah.
reinsurance to,
Evade the law.
I mean, it was seen as something that was able to get over certain problems, I guess, I don't know, yeah. I mean, the same, like, she used the mortgage-backed securities as an example, right? It was
Yeah.
created as a new product,
Yeah, this
you
is,
know.
and they were completely unregulated, once we did away with Glass-Steagall.
Yeah.
And the banks were able to do whatever they wanted, then all of a sudden, you open the gates of hell.
Yeah.
And there goes, banks start doing all kinds of shenanigans and.
And it comes back to B's point about when you're dealing with reinsurance, it's not even US. I mean, now you're talking outside the New York,
International market.
but you're also talking about global
Yeah,
markets. How would we even, you're
Well, I
not
just
in
wondered
this
if
environment,
if
how would you start?
we're able to regulate the insurance policy market within our own state, like you would think they would be able to build in some sort of buffer so that that's not, I don't know.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
my guess is the legalese language around that
Yeah.
would be so convoluted that there's a way to find loopholes, even no matter how you word it, that they'd be able to get around it, but I think it's worth exploring, for sure.
This gentleman, Mr. Finkelstein, who I thought was really, really smart. Give me a minute, he suggested,
9 hours of notes.
I mean, that's amazing that you have so many notes on this, this is incredible.
I didn't know.
dude, I am such a nerd. You don't wanna hang out with me.
I like nerds.
I'm a total nerd. I just feel like the need to learn everything. This guy put together 3 things that could help. Sunlight loss, bad faith law, and confront fraud. But he says that committed by insurers themselves, denying claims, misconduct by the industry, misleading policyholders, distorting pricing, and destabilizing the market. There are far more fraudulent defenses than fraudulent claims brought. And this is what he does for a living.
When you say fraudulent defenses, what do you mean by fraudulent? Or
Well,
what did he mean
I'm
by
gonna give you
fraudulent
an,
defenses?
you know, some insurance companies, will just not want to pay for, I'm gonna give you
Oh,
a
but
personal
The
example.
thing we were just talking about, where
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a
you
personal
take
example.
$1,000 versus what you could have had of 40, 50,000.
Right, do you wanna hear
Okay,
a sad
that's fine.
story of, I had a house in the south of Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
That house was built like a German bunker. In fact, at every hurricane, that's where people came to stay in my house. It was built so strong. When what was the big hurricane? Maria.
Yeah.
Came to Puerto Rico. I had been paying insurance for 15 years, never missing a payment, never. It was all I could do to get them to pay me $1,000 for what happened to, you know, my property, which wasn't much in the house, but the outside of the property was completely destroyed. So I said, okay, so this is how you're gonna be. I let my insurance expire because I was going to get a new one. Because they were so bad to me. An earthquake took out my house in between losing my insurance and starting. So it took out my whole house. But the people who still had insurance in the south of Puerto Rico, they're still fighting to get their money.
Mhm.
So that's more what he was saying in terms of fraudulent claims and such.
See, I
And-
don't, that fraud, Tanya. You
Yeah.
know, that's not fraud. Fraud is actually, you see, we use fraud all the time. But fraud is actually false data, false facts. By denying is not fraud. Offering $1,000 is not fraud. So
No,
I
it's-
even have a question of what the gentleman was talking about with fraud. Is our definition?
He said denying claims, the misconduct by the industry and misleading policyholders by distorting pricing.
But that's
By
not fraud.
distorting what? Yeah,
If,
by distorting.
I
what?
guess he
Price.
called it fraud.
Yeah, I mean, it could be fraud if they say for certain things are covered and then they don't cover them,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know, like destroying pricing.
But that wouldn't increase premiums,
Premiums,
that
yeah.
would help them with their
Yeah.
profit
Yeah.
margin, so that.
what it
is kind
does
of
is they-
Operating the other
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, no, the reason I raise this, everyone is on fraud and abuse. But we don't define what it is when we're looking for it, and we just make this grand statement.
But actually, let's go to the next one, because there is a bill that talks about fraud. And that's S9135. I don't know, if that was one that I had sent to you, yeah.
Mm,
Senate Bill S9135. This establishes enhanced criminal penalties for fraudulent insurance claims on construction sites and in motor vehicle accidents. So construction sites, this is apparently one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Right, where essentially, and they're in cahoots, like they have a special doctor, they send people
oh
to.
yeah, it's a whole.
Who then
yeah.
like say, oh no, you need all these you had a slip and fall. Now we're gonna give you thousands and tens of thousands of dollars of medical care that you don't need, but the doctor's gonna bill it, and so then everybody's gotta pay it, and it's kind of this vicious cycle, so. It's gonna enhance the criminal penalties for that kind of fraud, which would take a lot of the money out of the system,
Mhm.
essentially.
That's a good one. Who's the sponsor on this one?
Cooney.
Cooney.
Cooney?
Cooney. Look at the status, what does it say? Sorry, go ahead, Bill, go ahead, B.
So that is a good definition of fraud, what you just heard.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really defined, and it really is something that you could measure.
Yeah. So, and then there's one more, it's actually already been signed into law,
Oh,
Is that the
which I didn't know
Kavanaugh one?
about. No, it's called, this may not have been one that I sent you. Brendan, it's S1104A. I don't know if that's enough, but anyway, it was, I don't think I said, because it's not a pending bill, it's already been signed by the governor and passed. But it's essentially, it was signed on December 19th, 2025, it'll be effective June 17th, 2026. The New York Consumer Litigation Funding Act regulates third-party lawsuit loans by capping fees at 25% of gross recovery, mandating state registration for funders, and requiring clear, transparent contracts. The law prohibits funders from influencing legal strategy or charging referral fees to lawyers. So essentially, this is part of the scheme, right? So they're gonna say that there's like a financer.
Right.
Who's like upfronting the cost for these lawsuits, right?
Right.
Knowing that the jury is gonna give a giant payout, which then they can then recoup.
Yeah.
Most of the money doesn't even actually go to the victim,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It goes to like
The lawyer.
all of these.
There's a name for
So
those
so
things.
anyway, this is
Yeah.
now
That's
combating.
third-party litigation services.
Yeah.
You have the bill number? again?
TPLSs. Yeah.
So yes, it's S1104A. And there's an assembly version. Again, this was already signed into law by the governor,
Mhm.
but
Perfect.
it's gonna come into effect in June. So hopefully, this is something that helps
It's a,
reduce
one of the.
one
pieces.
of these many little
Yeah.
pieces that is
That's great.
ramping up the costs, right? And then, and thank you, Jim, for sending this article.
And that was Jeremy Cooney too, yeah.
Yeah, it was Jeremy Cooney. Yeah, and so that one has already been passed. And then the Mamdani administration has proposed a city-backed insurance
Yeah,
program,
that's the article he showed us.
which is the one that Jim was referring to. And what this will do is it will reduce premiums for approximately 100,000 homes by 2030. So it's ramping up
Mhm.
slowly, but it's specifically for affordable and rent stabilized homes
Yeah.
Okay,
in the
great.
city. So I think this, and right now where the state, they've already put the program together. Right now, they're issuing an RFA for like the consultant who's gonna design the program. And then they're gonna issue the RFP for insurers to participate in this program. So that's kind of another way to, again, address some of the shorter term, what's happening to the affordable housing side of the market.
This is great.
I was not aware of that until.
I would,
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah,
wasn't aware of it either.
Yeah.
When did
So-
this come out?
I was going through all my back cranes.
Oh, on
Stack.
in cranes?
Well, yeah, a couple of weeks. I had like 3 weeks of these.
Okay.
And I
But
thought,
yeah, this just came out in April. I
Yeah,
think it's very
Yeah.
recent.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really recent.
this comes
Can you
out
send me
weekly.
a picture or a
Jim, do
copy
you
of
want to
it?
see that?
Yeah, there was an article in City and State too, I think, on it, you could look at.
Okay.
Yeah, cause I
Yeah.
don't have
I
a
don't, it cranes, but I
crane
read about it in
subscription,
City
but
and
I
State.
just Googled it and found it through
Yeah.
other.
My office has it. I should go get it, but. Steve, can I ask you a question? Do you know what Intro 8583 sponsored by Kavanaugh is?
That-
Intro with by Kavanaugh?
No,
Yeah,
it's,
intro-
intros are for the city
city
council.
For the city,
No, Kavanaugh's a state.
it's a state, yeah. What is Intro 8583? Do
I
we
don't-
know?
I don't have that one in my list, so.
They kept mentioning it, at the hearing.
Yeah, and that's surprising that the state Senate hearing would have an
Yeah.
intro.
That's what they mentioned.
We can look it up later, but.
Let me see if I can find it.
But in any case, that's the end of the scan. I mean, there's a couple of other ones that if we're gonna do a resolution, I could find and put in. It was one was allowing the DFS or to hire a consultant or
Yeah.
something like that. It was a small bill, but. These were the major
Oh,
ones as far as.
I mean, I think to
like,
Jim's question about, single family home versus multifamily, it's interesting that the sponsors are actually not from Manhattan. Right? And
Mhm.
Well,
Jeremy told me.
some of the sponsors are Bronx.
Yeah, Bronx,
actually,
yes, yeah, so.
But none
Because
of.
Jeremy is Long Island, I think, right? Jeremy Cooney,
Yeah.
and, yeah.
And then one of them is from Orange County,
Yeah,
I
so
think
where's
that's outside.
Torres?
Bronx.
Bronx, Torres is
Yeah.
Bronx, okay. Kavanaugh, obviously Brooklyn, but we don't know, yeah.
Oh, and then just to let the committee know, we did invite, representatives from these different offices and the sponsors to come, and we did get a response from Senator
Yeah.
Kupis' office. That they couldn't join us tonight, but they're happy to do a one-on-one.
Okay.
So if we have questions about those specific legislation, we could aggregate our
Mhm.
questions and, set up a time that would work for that office to.
And
ask.
Cuscus is like the 42nd district, where is that, or 40?
Yeah, it's like just on it's outside of the city, but
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So fast, you have like the map in your
Yeah,
mind.
no, I'm really looking at the map, I'm like, wait.
it's like
Torres is right
northwest
here,
of the
Yeah.
city. If what I remember looking at
Yeah.
it, but yeah, no, it's interesting, and that's why I think actually if it would behoove us to pass some kind of resolution to give our own local legislators
Yeah,
attention.
and that would.
Attention to this
they're-
because
They're not paying attention.
They're not, none of them are co-sponsors of any of these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
and-
and that's what I found
yeah.
interesting, yeah.
I found it. I just have to load it up.
Because for home insurance, you don't need to just do, like, the building insurance is only 3 providers because of the AAA.
That's the issue.
Right,
that's
right,
three-
whereas the
that's
home
three
insurance, there are
providers.
many.
That's it.
options.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah,
and that, I mean, anytime you have that in any industry,
Yeah.
you have the potential for,
Monopoly.
if not de facto
Conclusion, yeah.
collusion,
Yeah.
you know, you certainly have oligopoly.
do you remember when Elliot Spitzer was AG?
Say again?
Elliot Spitzer,
Yeah.
when he was AG, he went after the insurance companies. There was that big case with Marsh McKellen for collusion, I
Mhm.
think it was, wasn't it?
Mhm.
But that was
And I
just
think he
corporate
got nailed a
insurance.
couple of months later.
Yeah, he got, yeah, I
with-
mean,
yeah.
that's why I'm just mentioning Elliot
These
Spitzer, I
guys
was
don't-
having like,
Yeah.
but
They
I
don't
wasn't
play
sure what the
softball.
history was, if you remember that history behind what that case was about.
Do I remember the case
Yeah.
specifically? No,
Yeah, no,
I
okay,
don't
yeah.
remember any details. I remember it was
found
going
it.
after the
What
insurance
is-
industry.
The 8583, it's Senate Bill S 8583, if we could put it up. It requires property casualty insurance companies to submit certain data to the Department of Financial Services and authorizes premium discounts to policyholders that demonstrate certain mitigation actions.
That sounds like,
Oh,
a Senate version of an
yeah,
assembly bill.
Yeah.
I think it's one of these, but it's the Senate version. Maybe,
It's the
I
Senate
might not have written down the numbers for all of
Okay,
the different ones,
Yeah.
but yeah,
and that's Kavanaugh.
okay.
So does he still have a little tag of our district down on the low? No, I guess not, right?
No,
it's
so
completely
I'm
gone.
not CB6, and he's also not running again, so there'll be a replacement for him.
He's
soon.
retiring?
Yeah,
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
He's a fairly young guy.
Yeah.
that's too bad. I like him.
So any closing thoughts on these bills, insurance? Do we feel like we want to do a resolution?
I got
How
it.
are people feeling about?
I just wanted to know the last one that you read, that you said is a state Senate bill that seems to be in a line with the first bill that we discussed. If there's a meeting of the lines with those two bills, was that something we could address in terms of what we're going to vote on that we support? If there's going to be at least one that we agree upon, it seems that that would be the strongest one.
Yeah, I mean, we can put together, I mean, I wanted this to be right, none of us here are insurance experts. I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna be going into the details of the bills and
We
offering
can't, yeah.
specific suggestions.
Yeah.
But I think we can sort of broadly outline, here are the major issues. These are the things that any laws should address, right? And then we can name specific ones if we particularly agree with the language in a particular bill. But, you know, that's where I think at the level of a community board, we should kind of keep it
General.
general, but
I mean, I think her
Yeah.
point is if
Yeah.
there's a bill that has both a state assembly version and a Senate version versus one that only has a state assembly,
Yes.
then should we focus on that because it's more likely to get traction because it's in both houses. So of the bills we discussed, does every single one of them have a state sponsor too?
So,
Like a state senate, sorry, not.
you mean if it's an assembly bill, does it also have a
It's-
companion?
Yeah,
Some of them don't.
no, yeah,
So,
and so
yeah.
I think her point
But-
is that if we should try to focus on bills that have.
But what if it's the $50 million one that
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
most controversial? So I think it has more to do with what is the bill trying to accomplish
Yeah.
and less, you know, because it's easy to copy a bill
Yeah,
and find a sponsor on the other side, you know, I think. And again, like if we're trying to get this issue raised,
Yeah.
none of our senators or assembly people are
Okay.
focused on this, are sponsors of any of these. from
Yeah,
what I
that's
could tell.
interesting.
So,
That's interesting. Should we reach out and ask them if they?
well, I mean, this is our process of reaching out, right? We
Yeah.
come up with a resolution,
And then
we
we write a
communicate
resolution.
this. It goes to all of their offices and maybe they,
And is it a resolution on the bills that are presently being discussed, or is it a resolution on the problems of the insurance company and therefore we support such and such a bills?
it's both, right?
It's
But
both.
it's sort of like, what are the problems? Why is this a problem? Why is it relevant to CD6? You know, why is it relevant to the state? You know, what are the main issues? And then, okay, here are some bills that we support, or we can call out the ones that we feel like are the most relevant, right? That should be supported.
Okay.
Just wondering if maybe, given the exigent time frame for especially the affordable housing and the supported housing, maybe we should break this into two separate resolutions, one addressing the exigent needs of the affordable housing groups or in that sector, and then addressing the general marketplace for for affordable insurance for the condos, the co-ops at market rate. Because that one seems like it has a lot more, like I said, you got exigent circumstances. They're gonna, as you pointed out, they're gonna be up the crypt. Yeah, they could be insolvent by the end of the year. Well, I would focus one, I would do that one, focus that one, and then maybe dig in more, do a more comprehensive resolution on the other elements.
Well, as far as timing goes, this all has to happen next month, because then we're off for the summer.
That's
So
right.
it's, either way, it's gonna be.
Do two resolutions.
But the only reason why I would see doing two is if we thought one might not pass full board and the other, and we don't want to risk putting it all in one that wouldn't pass, or is that what you're suggesting, that one might not get full support
Yeah, well,
versus the other?
I don't know, I think they would both
They would
get full support,
Yeah.
but
Then why separate them? Because I
I
feel
think we
like some
should separate.
of these issues are so intertwined and we're not really equipped, I
Yeah,
think, to
yeah.
understand how one would
well,
be separate.
I
from the
think
other.
maybe, you know, you're talking about the summer hiatus.
Yeah,
I think it's something that maybe we could push off until. Cause the assembly, Albany is gonna be shut down for the summer.
Yeah.
Mostly, so why not do this one that's important and then come back and hit it again in the fall.
that's gonna be,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yes, I actually agree with this concept, because I think your general, I look at a resolution on the general insurance and some of the assembly bills as a longer discussion. And we're gonna have to educate the rest of the board on different aspects of it, because I could see that going a long way. I do have a problem with the board, but I do think you need two separate resolutions, and I think the longer one is gonna be for the fall. I don't see us rushing it and getting it passed in June.
So you agree on doing the one for the,
And doing two resolutions, one that hopefully we could get passed in June, and that becomes something that we advocate from. And then the second in the fall, which deals with the bigger issue.
B, is that the one for the S7939, the one about the 50 million?
It's the one about the 50 million, but I would have to see the language on that.
Yeah,
But that, I think, is a very distinct thing that you're asking the board to do. And I think you could pull that off in June, while the rest of it is a very meaty subject that really we should take the fall and do it appropriately. And I'm sorry I won't be with you to do this, because this is probably my last meeting, but I think it's important.
hey, come on, B.
We do need any number.
No, come on, hang out with us, we're nice. Don't
You
leave
certainly
us.
are.
Now, what's going on?
what, they threw you off? Did I hear you right?
No, nobody,
No, she's.
What did she say?
Term limit.
she's term limited.
Oh.
No, I'm not term limited, just didn't
Limited.
apply. I figured 32 years on the board was enough of public service on the board. But I will stay interested in a number of issues.
Wow,
Wow, 32 years. Amazing.
Wow.
you can still be a, what do they call it? The other
A public-
members? A public member, can't you?
Yeah, well, she's not term limited yet, though, because the first term limits don't hit, I think,
Yeah.
until 2 years from now.
I'm not
Because-
term limited for another 4 years, but I thought 32 years was enough.
How many years?
32.
Nah, come on,
Can I-
come on, yeah, make it a 35.
Now,
Get the gold watch.
now, I have a stupid question.
Yes, ma'am.
How is
You're asking a
Montgomery,
stupid guy, I'll know.
how is our mayor going to
Pay for it?
process, no, what process does this go through? Is there legislation that has to be passed?
Yeah.
Yeah, the council has to approve of this.
So should we wait to see what happens with this and do the resolution supporting both that and this?
Well, then that would push all of this into the fall, I mean,
Yeah.
till next term, I
And
guess,
the-
but,
And it would push this into the city versus,
That's to the
The
state,
state.
yeah. Okay,
I mean, I guess the only.
we could write the resolution in such a way as to say, you know, all means to enforce.
yeah.
To support the insurance needs of these entities, these lower income.
He's like, my,
It seems like it would go hand in hand with the rent freeze, the proposal.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like things move so slowly as it is, like,
Yeah.
if we could just get a resolution out
Okay.
next month. It would give us, I mean,
Yeah.
it would give a lot of time for, I mean, obviously, these decisions are not gonna be made
Yeah,
in the next few months or this summer, but there's also no reason for us, because I don't really envision us becoming experts on insurance or
Yeah.
getting into more further weeds on the details of this. I wanted to keep the resolutions fairly general and easy for people to understand who don't have a background or who didn't even attend this meeting, right? So I think we could accomplish that, and I think one of the things that I would have trouble, even as I'm thinking about it, I don't know how I would write a resolution, because my knowledge is not deep enough to be able to tease out what parts of this would be applicable only to affordable housing versus what's applicable to the
I don't think you can. divorce it.
insurance writ large about
Yeah.
like, because, and that's how insurance works, right? Like, it's not, there's not insurance
yeah,
for
because they're
affordable
risky
housing
to-
versus,
yeah.
it's like a pool, we're all
Yeah.
sharing in the risk.
yeah.
And all of the problems, like the cost of the big expensive co-op, like as Jim was saying, could be the one, what is happening with the affordable housing,
Yeah.
and that's why they're getting slammed. It's all one pool of.
I think it's all
so-
one pool, and this is why I have a hard time dividing it between two resolutions, because I think it all forms part. I mean, the hearing was about insurance for everybody.
Right,
It wasn't just for affordable housing. I mean, there were panels on just affordable housing, but there were panels on just normal, buildings.
I think you can see differential impacts in the way has an effect on people in affordable housing, let's say,
Right.
versus people who, are dealing with market rate
Yeah.
increases can probably absorb some of those costs, but again, the problems and what these bills are trying to fix don't have anything to do with the way it's affecting different housing types differentially, right? It's trying to fix the root cause of the problem here. It's not trying to, aside from this $150 million fund, which is an add-on just for affordable housing providers, or this, the other solutions, which are larger solutions, are all about general things that affect everyone, right?
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that affordability is not just, the purview of affordable housing.
Yeah.
Affordability impacts everyone in the city, people think that people living in co-ops and condos are all rich. That's not true. We have a ton of people on fixed incomes in my building.
True.
And, this is actually if you read the CNYC, document that they provided, 99.1% of the homes below 400,000 that are offered in the city are offered in co-ops. That's enormous. That's enormous. And 85% of the homes between 400 and 800,000 is in co-op. So it is affordable housing. But, people don't think about it. So affordability impacts at all levels.
Right.
It absolutely, in fact, these people that have affordable housing and with rent stabilized and rent controlled units, they can't pass it on. So what they do is they fold and they sell the building and,
Oh, yeah, and that's the point Steve was making. Basically, when you're in a co-op or condo, private ownership, and you have a base of of tenants and steady cash flows, you can generally go to a bank and get a line of credit that will support you through something like this, where,
Mhm.
you know, my insurance went up through the moon. But next year, you know, we expect it will be lower because of our experience ratio and what have you. In the affordable housing market, you can't really do that.
Yeah, you can.
Because they can't, you know, they can't step to the banks and say, give us a line of credit.
Right.
I don't know, I'm leaning towards getting one that has a specifically addressing the, affordable housing first. And doing, if we wanted to do, we can do them contemporaneously, but I think we need to, I think it would help us in terms of highlighting the issue too, that, you know, not everybody's gonna go bankrupt. Whereas if we say in the resolution, you know, we're looking at affordable housing, not-for-profit organizations going insolvent perhaps as early as this year, that's gonna get some notice, particularly, you know, if you were to bring the media into it, the press. You follow me? You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah. No, I think
So are there
Calling out
some that
that
are
important.
on the verge of insolvency? Is that?
All of them.
I mean, there,
There are several, yeah.
Several.
Yeah, and I mean, Carlina Rivera brought up one building that completely lost all of their insurance coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
I mean,
It's a
we're seeing
problem.
foreclosures go up just because of Con Edison bills. People, if you don't pay your, you know.
well, thank
Yeah,
you to
several.
those data centers, but we can
Yeah, you
have
know, so
that
I mean. this is
conversation
none of
for
this is-
another
yeah.
day.
What is Rivera saying about all this?
That there was, well, she wants relief. You know, we all want relief
Right.
from these rates,
Right.
because what's happening now is that, you know, they won't renew your coverage, just like it happened to you.
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
it's-
they're making it hard to do it, so
Yeah.
you opt out. I think legally they couldn't just say, we're not gonna insure you anymore. right?
But it's gonna cost you, but it's gonna cost you.
And if you do have a major casualty
and then-
cause, it's, you know, forget it. You're looking at like I think it's 7 years.
Well, our
7
contractor
years.
on Fisk would actually paid a claim from his own pocket instead of going to his insurance.
Well, so let's do this.
Yeah.
I can start working on them because I did all of the reading, and maybe Tony, you can
I'll
look
help
at
you
it,
out.
and Jim, you wanna take a look at it?
Sure.
We'll start a draft. I think once you start seeing the words, you kind of, we'll see,
It starts.
is this lend itself to being two different ones, or can we, would it be more of one that's highlighting this affordable living piece, you know, so let's work through it and then decide.
I'm surprised there's so little press coverage of this.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why I was like, we need to talk about this, right, in our committee, because nobody's talking about, I mean, certainly there's a big.
I mean, the fact that they had this hearing, right? There was stuff in the fall, and people have been talking about insurance in general.
They're talking about insurance premiums, you know,
Yeah.
skyrocketing. That's in the news practically every day.
Yeah,
But they're not talking about the not-for-profits.
yes,
Yeah.
that, because
Going
like I said, that's why I
insolvent.
had to ask that question, and,
Yeah,
yeah, and I would have thought I would have heard about that.
And
And
that's a good story.
and that is what
That's-
most alarmed me.
Yeah, that's a
about all
news
this.
story.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a news story.
Well, they did in
I'm
the,
gonna shop
in
there to
the
somebody.
hearing, they did talk a
Yeah,
lot
Were there
about.
reporters?
Yeah, but there was nothing outside of it. I
yeah,
mean,
he's saying no press, which is.
Yeah.
They said no
actually-
press?
No, what you're saying, that no press coverage is
there was
happening.
there was too much covered. When you do a multi-phase hearing like that, it's very hard to pick out something for the press.
True.
Well, you can't get a reporter to pay attention for 9 hours.
Yeah, not at all. We have Tanya, but you can't do it.
Yeah, unless you're in Tanya.
Unless
You know.
you're a glutton for punishment like I am.
I honestly did not expect anyone to watch that entire hearing when I sent out. the
I
link.
did, and you know, my boyfriend kept saying, what are you doing? Can we have dinner now?
Yeah.
Just hold on.
I
You're-
mean,
you're-
it's truly amazing.
I testified down at City Hall one time. It was like,
Yeah, I was at a hearing with the
Although
council for 8 hours
Yeah.
too.
Hmm?
Yeah, I was down at a hearing and I
I mean,
testified.
you sat through all the casino hearings too, so
And I sat through
you
all the
are a
casino-
glutton for punishment.
I
She's
am
a glutton. She's a glutton.
Yeah, yeah.
I am.
That sounds like a good.
Okay,
All right.
so do we have energy to look at our budget and governmental affairs?
Let's give it a fast look.
Oh,
Is that-
yeah.
That's our next
Yeah.
item. on the
Yeah.
agenda.
That'll be
I'd
refreshing.
rather, I'd love to put that.
I'm gonna have to get off, so let me thank all of you. It's been a pleasure. I really have enjoyed it.
B, we love you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And
I've always loved you.
Try not to embarrass you with the Crystal report. I'm trying
You
to,
never will. And anyway, keep doing what you're doing, guys. I love this committee because you could deal with so many different issues. And I was in public service for 54 years. So I actually appreciate what you're trying to do. So keep doing it.
you're the best, B.
Thank you, B.
For all your service.
Bye. No, I'm gonna miss her.
I hope we do something because we have a couple of people who've served for a very long time stepping off the board this year. Yeah.
And you know, when B speaks, you really listen. And she always has.
Okay, still.
So
That's a good idea.
this document is something you probably already have seen if you clicked on the link that I sent out. Jim sent me some edits. So those are incorporated as track changes and I wanted to go through them as a committee. So we decide. Second paragraph, this is the description of our committee. Says this committee is also responsible for coordinating with government agencies and elected officials regarding budget needs. And then as well as monitoring and reviewing policies that affect city and state procedures and systems. Which I feel like that's still relevant.
I
Should
think
stay
so.
in there.
Yeah.
It's also the description from our website. I got that from the website. It says our budget committee. So I just copied from the. It feels like we do more than just budget needs, so that
No.
was kind of the need. So let's
Instead of.
take the change out. Brendan,
We're gonna reinstate that as well as monitoring.
reject the change.
Carry this.
Undo. Hey,
Okay. Well. And then we just added after the pending legislation in brackets such as NYC council intros or state legislative bills. Can scroll down. This got added to the district needs. So since the board is on hiatus in the summer, board committees must complete their district needs statements by the end of May. By passing a resolution to avoid competing with the budget request deadline in September. Jim just thought we need to be stronger language there rather than sort of making a request. Which I'm fine with.
I'm
Are
fine
folks
with that.
this?
yeah.
Okay, accept all those changes.
I'll also accept the earlier change.
Oh, okay, sure.
So.
That's
I'm a
good.
hard ass.
Scroll down.
We need one.
Yeah, I was trying to be more diplomatic. But it's fine. It's fine.
It's time. I've seen you not be. I've seen you be a hard ass, so you can do it.
I pick my battles. And then we just broke out some of the language here, so it's more bulleted. How do we evaluate results? And then, so it says how, yeah, I added the how will we evaluate, and then it says, do we have, go down because I can't really see. Do we have the means to assess whether board's actions have been taken? Where do we, is there an independent metric, this Jim added this language, independent metric by which the board can assess whether or not the recommended actions have been measured or some other means to know the matter has been addressed? And then. Yeah, so that. I suddenly just broke out the language there rather than this, how will we know if the action specified in the
Yeah,
resolution?
it's
So
just,
it's just,
we're
we
saying
can,
the
yeah.
same thing,
it's-
it's just struck. it
Yeah,
there.
so you can, if folks are good with this, we can accept all those changes. It just rewords a little bit the. What my sentence was saying before.
Okay,
And then the last one is competency. So looking at, do we have the knowledge, experience, expertise? How widespread is common is the knowledge? Do the committee members have enough information? Do the recommended solutions require specialized data or expertise? Is there consensus among experts? And the last point was, will the opinion of a community board carry weight with those involved in the decision-making process of the issue. I feel like we should still, it's a legitimate question. I think we should ask ourselves, like, the question may be like, okay, at the end of the day, how much does a community board opinion matter in anything? But I feel like it's just a good checklist of like questions to ask. And it may be like, well, we don't know. Maybe it's not we don't know how much influence we have, but we still want to talk about it. You know? So I would leave it in there.
And I'm of the view that we might want to, that we should go.
So you wanna take this out? This was just a
No.
motion? No.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Just because I think we should, if we're aware of something that affects the community, we should opine on it.
And
Whether or not we get listened to is an entirely different thing. I mean,
Could we
I can
say?
imagine all the resolutions we've passed that do get ignored, but
Could we say something like, how much weight does the opinion of the community board
So,
have
Yeah.
on,
oh,
how much weight? Yeah, about something like
How
that.
much influence?
How much
or
influence, how much weight does the
Well,
opinion of the community board?
you're saying, will it carry weight?
Will the opinion of the community carry weight with those? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
same, different wording of the
I
same.
feel like we should put it back.
We should put it back
Just
in.
as to have it in the back of your mind.
I mean, we, as a community board, want all our electeds to care about everything we bring up. So I agree with Jim that we should take it out.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we bring up stuff that the electeds aren't even aware of. For example, this thing with
Yeah. And there's been other, I mean, there's been other issues
affordability.
that,
Huh?
there's been other issues too, that they're said, they have
Yeah,
told
they
us,
don't-
thank you for bringing it up.
So where I was going with this
Yeah,
is I have noticed
yeah,
there are some committees
yeah,
that go into deep technical depth
yeah.
on a particular issue because one person is interested in it. But a community board shouldn't necessarily be giving, let's say, hospitals guidance on emergency room protocols, for
Yeah.
example.
Mhm.
I think it should be the American Medical Association and maybe, people who's like, that might be a better, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the thought process that I was going
I
at. So like,
and interestingly enough, that's the exact issue where the elected said, this was not on our radar, and CP6 brought it on our radar.
What's that?
about,
The emergency room that's at NYU.
Really?
Yeah,
well, maybe a bad example, but
yeah, but it is
I'm
funny
saying-
that that's the issue that I was thinking of, and it's
Yeah.
the issue you were thinking of.
not that particular, I'm not talking about beds.
Okay,
That is
yeah.
a legitimate concern, so
Yeah.
like, we don't have enough hospital beds.
Yeah.
I'm talking about how should doctors in an emergency room do their protocols during
Oh,
a surgery?
yeah, that's different, okay, that, yeah.
We could opine on that, right? But like, why would we?
Not,
You
yeah,
know?
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying,
So-
I mean, okay.
We have to
Yeah.
know our limits.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's bullet for me is know your limits as a.
Know
community
your
board.
limits.
So
yeah.
Not that there
can we word
aren't
it as
issues.
how relevant, is this a committee issue? Like, how can we word it in a way that this is an issue that is of community relevance?
Yeah, I would just say leave it to the committee when they're doing the discussion,
Hmm.
or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Tanya,
Can we just reword that last thing and instead of taking out, it says put it something like, how much weight does the opinion of the community board carry with those involved?
Same thing.
The same thing.
yeah,
It's essentially the same thing. I'm agnostic at this point, but my view is, I think if we're aware of something, if we have discussed something, then, or even considered something, we should opine on it, even if it will be ignored. And I've seen that in any number of instances where we've done things that
And it's
were
been
ignored.
I'm totally fine with that, but I'm saying that discussion should happen. And this question will bring about that discussion. So we can say, yes, maybe we don't have a lot of influence,
Yeah.
but let's go for it. But that discussion should be happening, right?
It
If
should
the
be.
question isn't there,
yeah, I
then
think
nobody
maybe
can bring it up.
I mean, your example totally clarifies, because I was thinking, like, we want our electeds to listen to
No,
us,
no,
but
no.
this is not, the AMA is not gonna listen to us.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but, and I'm not trying to say that
Yeah.
we should take issues out
Oh,
that
yeah.
just won't get anywhere, because,
Yeah.
you know, we passed lots of resolutions,
Yeah,
which, you know,
but,
ignored.
yeah,
that maybe
of-
get ignored, but,
Yeah,
you know, it's still within our competency
Yeah.
and within our interest to bring it up. So I'm not closing down issues, I'm just saying, think about it. Because there are so many issues, particularly for this committee, how would you prioritize the things that we do discuss
yeah,
versus the things that we don't discuss? You know, so that's, and remember, this is about the agendas. How
yeah,
do we set the agenda for the
Yeah.
committee?
Mm.
It's not about resolutions and all of that.
Yeah.
So
You wanna take a
let's
vote on?
just,
No,
we can put it back, just put it back. Now that I've explained it, I think. people
yeah,
understand
we understand it.
What we were,
better.
where I was going.
So reject the track.
Rejected, yeah. And I
Sorry,
think
Jim.
that was the last,
If you made the changes, it keeps on saying that you've made the change there.
no, because he sent it to me separately
Oh, okay.
and then I added them.
right,
And then the last one is just adding a DCP, just community district profiles and
yeah,
links to the capital projects,
yeah, cause we always get,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, so the other document we have on budget requests
Mhm.
also has these.
Mm.
So now it's gonna be both places, so.
Yeah.
do we have there was mention of an appendix, which I thought, I think it would be good to have the calendar. I think I mentioned this. in
Yeah,
the
it
email.
is in the appendix. We have the
Okay.
calendar.
Okay, I don't have the appendix, didn't see the appendix.
Okay, it might have been on the original one. It's our budget. Remember that TNS budget
Yeah,
just
the chart,
with the chart, and it says that here are the calendar deadlines, and it goes through, here's the budget
I
process.
thought I saw
I mean,
that.
I don't know what I was doing, but I missed all of this in this email.
This was from before.
Oh, before, okay, so
Yeah,
maybe I'm just.
Not
yeah.
this meeting, it
Okay.
wasn't,
I don't know when
Yeah.
when you signed it, March, wasn't it?
yeah, it was
Oh,
before our
it was,
last meeting.
okay, so that's.
It was not. this-
okay,
It was
that's
not this
fine.
No, we
past
didn't
month.
have
I
a
was like,
meeting.
well, how did I miss all
No, no, it
this?
was 2 months ago.
Okay,
Yeah, we didn't have it in April.
yeah,
Because we missed our meeting
Yeah.
last month. Okay, and then glossary, I think we can, I'll fix that, we can get rid of it because I don't have special terms or anything that needs to go in there, so. Okay, I think
Bless
we're,
you.
Just delete it.
yeah, we can get rid of that section glossary.
I just had a question. This is a handbook for us, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
It's for your
It's-
successors.
yeah.
Is there any way diplomatically that we can make this appear as a template for the other committees? And even if it could be more generalized, because we're talking to ourselves and you say, okay, the people that come after, but to me, this kind of handbook is necessary for every committee at CP6. Is there any way that we could do it? And it's not so specific that they see it's us, but that there is some sort of structure that it could be, it's very comprehensive, but that even as a template, it would be comprehensive for the other committees, and it would make it easier for them too. So that
Yeah.
not one person is focusing on one issue where they're going on and on and on. Do you think that we could do that?
But yeah, so every committee has been asked to do this.
No, but we're taking upon ourselves to, for your consideration, so to speak, giving them a template, because I'm not confident that it's going to be done in every committee. I'm really not.
The executive team has asked,
I thought,
has
yeah,
asked,
Yeah, yeah.
every committee chair must come up with a handbook.
And
and
they
they
said
gave them
and they
some
have, and they've
guidance.
already done the draft. But
We're the only committee that I know of.
That's what I mean. I see, it's just,
We don't have power over other committees.
no, but
They
just
can't.
for them to take a look, just to take a look.
Well, so this will be, this is gonna be shared at executive committee,
Right,
right?
so executive
Yeah,
committee.
if they wanna see it, they
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah, but to me, when they see that it's going to be a VGA, okay, so they see it, but to have something that says template and offered as a guide to consider, I think that should be done. I really don't think that, and then they would be uniform. It's not, our sort of product line would
Yeah.
all be
Well,
the same.
That was the idea, and someone on the someone on the exec team came up with a list of questions that was common, like a generic, and they sent that to every committee chair, and that's how I came up with this.
Right.
So I was
But
responding
use
to
the
the
definite
exec.
structure. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah.
work that has been done, at least with the structure, the skeletal part of it has been
Yeah, I
done.
mean, the problem is that every committee is very different in terms of the way that their issues and how they operate. So, it's sort of, it's kind of left to each committee, but yeah, I mean, that was the idea. Well,
It's like giving someone an outline and then they can put in their particular
yeah,
issues.
so
but
as
to
I'm
me,
saying,
there
everybody
should
got
be-
an outline.
Yeah.
The outline was distributed by the office. And then I changed it to make it relevant to our committee.
Yeah. Like the
Mhm.
executive
So the
committee. already-
executive committee, they didn't share it with the entire board. Every
Yeah.
committee chair got an outline,
So long as,
just so you know.
just
There
so
is an
long
out.
as
I mean, it
every
sounds
one of
to
them.
And everyone
have
got
a-
it.
There's
I'm
not
sorry, what did
like
you
there's
say?
diplomatic.
I say just so long as all of them have a timeline that says they're supposed to get their budget requests in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, budget requests is another topic, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway.
I think that's very gentle, even though you put must in bold type,
Yeah,
I
you
think
bet.
that.
I've been trying to get the vice chairs of committees to be responsible for gathering all the budget requests. In other words, instead of just leaving it to the committee as a whole, just assigning specific responsibility to the vice chair to carry out that task. But,
I mean, it should be assigned to anybody who wants to do it, right? Like, you know,
well,
that's
yeah, but I mean, you know,
sometimes it's not always the vice chair who's in the
Yeah.
best position to carry that forward.
Maybe not, but
Yeah,
somebody, an individual.
but I agree,
an
there should be
individual-
somebody
One
who's
individual,
tasked with it, but again,
yeah.
that's up to how to each committee operates is kind of.
Well, at
outside of
the
our-
executive board meeting, is there a time limit as to when the individual handbooks have to be finished? Not the budget, but the individual handbook.
I can't remember, Brendan, did they give us a deadline?
I think there was one.
I mean, it's probably gonna be, I haven't even seen one in the other committee I serve on, so. I would imagine it'll be a while.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people saying their agendas are so full.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
all of
they're
their
not
agenda
happy,
and
yeah.
items, they're like, when are we gonna get to this? And some committee chairs said, sorry, we're not gonna get to this before the summer, that's for
That's
sure.
not,
Yeah.
That's what they said, so.
that's nuts.
And so, I think, look, Sandy was trying to do this because particularly at a time when we're gonna get a lot of turnover on the board, and,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
institutional memory is really important, so she was like pushing this, so.
I
You know,
don't think we brought it up in the other committee either. Do you wanna do that? Mhm.
but in any case, ours is finished.
Yes.
so- We-
Hard work on this, so it's
Thank you.
terrific.
Yeah,
Thank you, Steve.
if you need a hand draft on that.
Yes, and I will take you up on those offers for the.
Yeah, just let me know. I mean, I'm a little booked this week, but.
Yeah, we have
just
time.
let me know.
She's at the beginning.
You're doing it in June, right?
You're not gonna
By
believe this.
June.
I
Yeah,
have my
June.
first board meeting tomorrow for the CNYC. That's gonna be
Just had a
fun.
mild panic attack.
Okay, so just to finish up, does anyone have any old or new business?
I have a new business. I
Yeah.
have a question. We're the committee that opines on legislation, right? We're basically.
No, it depends on what it is, right?
Yeah,
It depends on.
If it's housing, then it should be the housing.
Because it's
committee.
governmental affairs, right? So I mean, it is vague because we
Yeah.
have kind of ventured into other areas in the past.
Just in terms of historical.
Yeah,
That didn't used to be the case.
Mhm.
Everything that was legislative came through our committee, and there was a reason for that, largely because a lot of the people that were on the committee had relationships with a number of the lawmakers.
Oh, so-
Okay.
I don't know if it's, I mean, we can take, my view is have the people who are specialists in the area, say housing and homeless,
yes,
take their information, get their committee to approve it, and then have this committee. approve
yeah,
it.
which is what we've been doing in the last, the time I've been on this committee is then we do a joint, we kind of meet it or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Joint or just
Yeah.
referral,
Yeah.
transportation.
Yeah.
Transportation wants to send us something, yeah. That's
Okay,
my,
so if it affects seniors, it should be somebody else, and if it's.
well, no,
I mean, you can bring up the issue and then we can say
Yeah.
we should talk to this committee and do a joint meeting.
Right,
Yeah, because there's,
What's the issue?
there's two pieces of legislation on the table right now. One is to reduce housing costs for qualifying seniors.
to do,
To do
Housing.
the real estate tax exemptions for disabled homeowner real estate tax exemption, an annual income for up to two-person, raise it to 75,000 from 58,000 that it is now. And the other one is to also increase the assessed value for the tax abatements of J51 program. So these are things that affect housing and
It's
affordability
pretty specific to housing and
Yeah.
housing programs, so I would say it belongs with housing.
with housing. Okay. Maybe I'll forward it to Alec,
Mhm. Alec and Sandra.
Alec and Sandra. Okay.
Okay. So with that, there are no other objections. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Thank you.
This was
We're
a
adjourned.
fun meeting.
Thank you, very good meeting. Thank you very much.